The TELOS Thesis. The Foundational Platform of Ascended Human Architecture, Kenton David Bell. At the center of the TELOS body of work lies a singular proposition, that humanity is not merely evolving psychologically, emotionally, or spiritually, but architecturally. There have been moments in the arc of human history when the category of change in play was not the familiar kind, not incremental refinement, not the cultural evolution of values and practices, not even the kind of paradigm shift that reshapes understanding while leaving the underlying structure of the human being more or less intact. These were moments of a different order, moments in which something about the very architecture of human consciousness itself was being called to reorganize. The TELOS thesis opens in the recognition that we are living in precisely such a moment, and that the full scope of what is underway has not yet been named with the precision it deserves. We are entering an era in which the foundational structure from which human consciousness organizes itself is changing. Not at the surface, not in its applications or its cultural forms. At the level of base architecture, the deepest operating layer of the human system, the foundational code from which all thought, all perception, all identity, all creative output, and all relationship to reality ultimately arises. This is what the TELOS thesis means by architectural evolution, not the adoption of new beliefs, not the development of new emotional capacities, not the expansion of spiritual awareness, though each of these is part of what follows. The architecture itself is changing. The platform upon which everything else runs is being upgraded at its root. The period in which this is occurring is referred to across many spiritual traditions as the ascension cycle, a designation surrounded by enough enthusiasm, confusion, and wishful projection that it has, for many thoughtful people, lost its usefulness. The TELOS thesis reclaims the term and situates it precisely. The ascension cycle is not primarily an experience. It is a structural event in the evolution of consciousness, a shift in the foundational conditions within which human awareness operates, produced not by human intention alone, but by the movement of the field of consciousness itself. The experiences it generates, the heightened sensitivity, the dissolution of old certainties, the intensification of both suffering and illumination that so many are navigating, are the symptoms of structural change, not its substance. The substance is architectural. What is telos? In the ancient Greek tongue, the word telos carried enormous philosophical weight. It did not merely mean an ending or a conclusion. It meant the final cause, the deepest animating reason behind all things. For Aristotle, telos was the invisible pull of perfection woven into the fabric of every living form. An acorn carries within it the telos of the oak, not striving toward the tree, but already the tree in potential, drawn forward by the invisible gravity of its own ultimate design. The ancient Greek philosophers understood what modern civilization has largely forgotten, that purpose is not manufactured, it is encoded. Within this body of work, telos is called upon in its fullest and most original sense, and then expanded far beyond it. It is not invoked as a philosophical concept alone, nor as a motivational framework, nor as the product of intellectual construction. It is understood, received, and transmitted as something altogether more foundational, the base reality platform of the ascended human system. It is worth pausing to acknowledge the layered nature of this name. Telos carries its Greek meaning, the final goal, the ultimate aim, the point of it all. And encoded within those same 5 letters is a second, equally precise revelation, the enlightened living operating system. This is not wordplay. It is a confirmation from the intelligence that transmitted this work that the name itself is a transmission. What the Greeks intuited as the animating final cause of all living things, this work renders as a precise, receivable, and operational architecture, a living system of enlightened intelligence that can be installed, embodied, and activated within the human being. Not invented, received. There is a fundamental distinction that must be clearly established from the outset, the difference between knowledge that is constructed and knowledge that is received. Human civilization has largely operated under the assumption that understanding arises upward, that the mind, through sufficient analysis, experimentation, and intellectual effort, can eventually arrive at ultimate truths. Telos arrives through a different channel entirely. It is not the product of philosophical inquiry, however sophisticated. It is not a synthesis of existing spiritual traditions, however insightful. It is not a motivational architecture designed to inspire human performance. It cannot be arrived at by effort alone, because its origin does not lie within the reach of the unassisted human mind. Telos is channeled, it is revealed, it is transmitted, it descends from source through the throne energies and into the field of human awareness, as a direct transmission of higher-order divine intelligence. In this sense, telos is not new knowledge about the human being. It is the original knowledge of the human being, returned at the precise moment in evolution when humanity is ready and required to receive it. The architecture of perfected consciousness. Telos is the perfected architecture of human consciousness in alignment with divine intelligence, not an idealized future state to be labored toward across lifetimes of incomplete effort, but an existing, complete, and precise structural template already held within the intelligence of Source. Consider the difference between a blueprint and a building. The blueprint precedes the building, contains the complete intelligence of what the building is meant to be, and serves as the authoritative reference against which every aspect of construction is measured. In the same way, telos is the divine blueprint against which the human form, human consciousness, and the human trajectory of evolution are properly understood. What most of humanity has been living, however earnestly, however spiritually, has been the experience of a building constructed without full access to its blueprint. Fragments of the design have surfaced across traditions, across mystics, across moments of genuine revelation. Pieces of the original template have been glimpsed, named, worshipped, and partially embodied. But the complete, integrated, transmittable architecture, the full telos, has not been accessible to the human system in its current form until now. The language of code is used deliberately. In the computational world, source code is not the surface expression of a program. It is the foundational set of instructions from which all function, all behavior, and all output ultimately derives. Change the source code, and the entire behavior of the system changes. Leave it corrupted or incomplete, and no amount of surface-level adjustment will produce true and lasting transformation. Telos is the source code of perfected human beingness, offered from Source itself, transmitted through the throne energies, received as the foundational operating instructions for what the human system is designed to become. The work of telos is not surface-level improvement. It is recoding, returning to the original and perfected instructions that Source held for the human being from the beginning. The throne energies and the transmission. The transmission of telos does not arrive through a single, unmediated flash of individual inspiration. It arrives through a structured and intentional channel of divine intelligence, what is named within this work as the throne energies, a specific and extraordinarily high-order tier of intelligence, not localized to any single tradition or lineage, but emanating from the seat of Source itself. It is from this level that the architectural templates of existence, including the template for human consciousness, are held and transmitted. Telos is not the product of one being's spiritual journey, however advanced. It is a cosmically sourced transmission, a communication of divine intent regarding the design and destiny of the human form. This is why telos carries a quality that sincere engagement with it tends to confirm. It does not feel invented, it feels remembered. Those who encounter it deeply often report a resonance that goes beyond intellectual agreement, a cellular, soul-level recognition, as though something long held in waiting has finally been named. This is the signature of true source transmission, not novelty, but the profound relief of contact with what was always true. Why a new platform is required. The old paradigm, the system of identity, perception, and creation within which most of human civilization has operated, was built upon a specific architecture, foundational premises about what the human being is, how reality functions, and what the relationship between consciousness and the world consists of. Those premises generated everything the old world produced. They were not mistakes. They accomplished what they were designed to accomplish, producing the accumulated experience, suffering, and developed self-awareness that make the current evolutionary movement possible. They are dissolving now, not because they failed on their own terms, but because the field of consciousness itself is moving, and the old architecture, calibrated for a different frequency, is losing its structural coherence within the new one. This is where the TELOS thesis departs from many frameworks that have named the evolutionary threshold without fully mapping what is required to cross it. It is not sufficient to think differently. It is not sufficient to heal more deeply, awaken spiritually, or hold more elevated philosophical understandings of consciousness and reality. All of these have genuine value. None of them, individually or combined, constitutes the architectural transformation this moment is actually asking for. The reason is structural. A human being attempting to enter the new field of consciousness while still operating from the old architecture faces structural incompatibility. The new field operates at frequencies according to principles and within a logic of coherence and creative participation that the old architecture was not designed to support. Attempting to inhabit the new paradigm from within the old architecture produces exactly the pattern most sincere seekers know well: genuine progress, genuine glimpses of new territory, followed by the gradual return to the familiar default. Not because the individual lacks sincerity or spiritual capacity, because the platform cannot stably hold what they are reaching for. What is required is not the improvement of the old architecture, but its replacement. The installation of a new and correct foundational platform upon which the ascended human life can be coherently, sustainably, and genuinely built. Just as no application can perform beyond the capabilities of the operating system beneath it, no aspect of human life can reach its ultimate expression without the foundational code of telos in place. Spiritual practice, healing work, relational transformation, creative genius, leadership, and service. All of these are amplified, clarified, and made sustainable when built upon the correct architecture. Without it, even the most sincere efforts tend to cycle, breakthroughs followed by familiar returns, glimpses of greatness followed by collapse back into the same limiting patterns. The platform, TELOS, the Enlightened Living Operating System, is the base reality platform of ascended human consciousness, the architecture of what the human being was always designed to become, received as direct transmission from the throne energies on behalf of Source itself, and offered now as the operating system that makes the next stage of human evolution not merely imaginable, but structurally inhabitable. It is composed of 7 primary components: divine orientation, coherence, sovereignty, integrity, the divine intelligence interface, creative authority, and embodied divinity, each one a structural feature of the ascended human system, each one the precise architectural counterpart to one of the 7 distortions of the old paradigm. It is downloaded through 7 stages, from the recognition of system collapse through purging, DNA activation, resonance, installation, embodiment, and finally the creation of new realities from the stabilized platform. Together, components and stages form a complete and self-reinforcing architecture, not ideals to aspire toward, but structural realities to be received, integrated, and progressively embodied as the actual operating conditions of a life lived from the correct platform. The ascended human state is not a fantasy of perfection removed from ordinary life. It is the natural and intended outcome of a consciousness fully aligned with its original design. Such a being does not transcend humanity, it fulfills it. The body, the mind, the emotional system, the relational life, the creative power, all of it becomes the expression of an architecture that was always its intended structure. Telos is not an escape from the human, it is the completion of it. Return for a moment to the word itself, telos, the point of it all, the final goal, the ultimate aim, not a destination that exists only at the end of a long road, but the animating intelligence that gives the road its direction, its meaning, and its necessity in the first place. It is the answer to the question every human being, at the deepest level of their consciousness, is perpetually asking, what am I truly for? What is the full design of what I am? What would it mean to live not from a fragment of my potential, but from the complete and original architecture of my divine nature? The answer is not philosophical conjecture, it is not spiritual metaphor, it is not aspirational language designed to inspire before the real work begins. It is a living transmission, precise, structured, and utterly practical, from the intelligence that designed the human being in the first place, transmitted from Source, offered to humanity, available now. A new platform is required. That platform is telos. What follows in this body of work is its unfolding.